Audrey, great to see you. Thanks for making
Great to see you,
time.
Paul.
I appreciate that. Thanks for making a bit of time to come and have a chat. I want to start the interview by picking up something that we talked about when we spoke a few weeks back. You said to me, "I think the carbon trading system's pretty broken." Now, quite a lot of people will be horrified by that. I mean, why do you think that that's the case, and why does it matter?
So, first of all, I'd like to say that I do believe in the system, right? I'm not going to start and tell you that, oh, the system is all broken and there is no hope. That's not what I'm trying to deliver here. But in like every other system, it's not perfect,
Yeah,
right? No
yeah.
system is perfect. I do believe in it though. Otherwise, I wouldn't be building and I wouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing. So I think that the principle of carbon trading, the principle of um, allowing for companies to uh, trade the carbon they save and offset them to companies that produce too much carbon is a good system. You know,
It's clearly got problems. That's what you're saying. I mean, what would you say the
but
problems
it's
are?
not working in the sense that I think it should be working, or it could be working for it to actually work the way it's intended to.
Right.
So what I believe is we do see pockets, and I've just put on my LinkedIn a post yesterday about that that shows the sprouts of how it could be working, whereby now farmers can receive carbon credits for the soil and for the initiatives that they put into their fields. In fact, that amounts to possibly even more. That's in India. Check my post for that if you want to receive even more than the crops that they grow,
Right.
right? So even just with that example, you see the potential. All of a sudden, Indian farmers that were probably, in poverty, in all honesty, and like a lot of other farmers, in particularly in developing countries, that received the scraps of, you know, selling their products to much bigger corporation like cocoa and all of that issues that is well documented. All of a sudden, they have another revenue, another source of income
Yeah.
that in fact replaces or can even be more than the crop that they rise. It's revolutionary if it works.
Yeah. So
You
what you're
see?
saying,
So
let me make sure I've got this. So what you're saying is the system doesn't work very well, but it's a good, the principle is a good thing. And what we need to do is get the system working properly. That's basically what you're saying.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
That's right. Because it's too fragmented.
How do you think we need to fix it? What do you think we need to do to put that right? Because I think you make a really strong argument there. What do you think we need to do to move that situation forward?
So again, putting a caveat to it, I'm not criticizing anybody that is trying to get it right, or, it's
Yeah.
just a very, very complex thing,
Yeah.
right? Because it requires people to measure and report on their carbon emissions, which is incredibly complicated in itself. Then it requires governments to collect all that information at government level. And then it requires regulations. Then it requires a verifiable system or a verifier, which, has to have the correct data. Then it requires inter-country agreements. Then it requires some technology. So there's so many players, there's so many different levels for it to work from the level of the farmer all the way to government, intergovernment, and globally. You can imagine how complicated and difficult it is. So the problem with the current system broadly and quickly is that it's too fragmented. Well, no surprise there, right? Because everybody, wants to do it. Everybody sees the benefits. People are jumping on it at different stages. They have different regulations in different countries, different markets. So it's just too fragmented, right? And this is why it's not working because the flow is not flowing due to the fragmentation of the system, and it's prone to abuse because the system doesn't verify or quantify the data in the way that is robust enough,
Okay. Okay. So
right?
I
So
get
these two
that.
issues are quite
Yeah, no,
prominent to
I
be
can
sorted.
I can see why that's a huge problem for people like you and for the rest of the world. Because if we don't get it right, we've got an even bigger.
Well, we try to solve that problem.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
I was about to ask you about that, right? So what is it that you're trying to change? I mean, just talk us through what you're trying to change. What are what is it you're trying to achieve with Lnk Technologies? I mean, what's the bit that you're trying to fix and work on?
So we are building a holistic end-to-end technology platform that will, resolve the core of these issues by doing two things, which is collecting data around carbon emission at source. And when I mean at source, I mean literally at the source, like at the distribution board level, for example, with sensors that collects the data and then send it securely to our remote servers. So that's one. And then immutable. So, and then ensure the immutability of the data as it goes through the system. So that means it's immutable. That means it can't be um, modified. That means it can be audited. It can be tracked back, and you have a baseline, and you have an auditable trace. So that's the core of it to answer to solve the first problem. Then we attach to that a carbon reporting software platform that transforms that data and then report it seamlessly and comprehensively according to the standards, international standards, to the carbon trading authorities, or the verifiers, if you want. And then once that's done, because we have all that data that is immutable, we can then apply a monetary value to it.
Okay.
So if you think about your carbon, if you think of traditional accounting software packages that are now linked to the tax system, to HMRC, they are linked to your accountant, they are linked to your bank account. This is the equivalent, or in carbon accounting terms. But the software that exists right now on the market that do the reporting do not verify at source the data. So that poses a problem because as you're putting a monetary value on something, as you well know and everybody else knows, if if the data is not correct, then you're prone to fraud because the data is not verified, right?
Yeah.
And this is where the monetary aspect of carbon credit is a problem because people are issuing, the verifiers are issuing carbon credits for things that are still estimated, for carbon emissions that are still estimated, and therefore it reduces the credibility of these carbon credits. And then it's more perverse than that. It creates a tier system of quality of carbon credits. So now what you see is people or platforms that are trying to chase the quality of the carbon credit and that would attract a higher price. So the higher the quality of your carbon credit in terms of the validity of what you've actually saved, or the validity of your data attracts more price on the carbon market. But you can see how it can work. You can buy cheap carbon credits that have not been very well verified, or higher carbon credits that you can be sure they're a bit more verified or a bit more secure in terms of what you're buying. From the buyer's perspective, it's not really comforting to not really be sure what is it that you're buying, if it's legit or not, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And there's a big reputational risk for companies that buy stuff that isn't sound. So, I mean,
Exactly.
I get what you're saying. I also think that you've taken on a big, I mean, that's a big ambition trying to fix that.
That's right.
I mean, I like to see a bit
And
of,
we can't do it on our own, right?
yeah,
So let's put it out there,
yeah,
But we're developing the technology. We have the vision, and we have the technology. But the technology, again, probably you know that already, is the easiest part, right? Even though it's not easy, it's in fact the easiest part. The most difficult part is to get the adoption, get the ratifications, get everybody else working together using it so that it works seamlessly.
yeah. So let me ask you. I mean, that's a big ambition. I mean, a good ambition, but a big ambition. Let me ask you how you got to where you are now. We'll talk about what you're going to do in the future in a minute, but tell me about the journey that you've been on to now. I mean, what's your background? Are you a tech bod? Are you a climate bod? I mean, how did you get to where you are?
Well, I was neither. So I wasn't very much in tech at all. My career was in child protection, in fact. I was in social care, I was a social worker. And I've done that for 20 years, and I had a good career in it. And I was happy in my job. There was not a problem there. But when you do a bit of something for a bit too long, and especially something that is difficult emotionally,
I
in a
get.
context that is also, challenging with the austerity that we've gone through with the previous government and then this government. And you just run to a point where, you're kind of feeling that maybe it's time to do something different, right? But again, trying to do something that you're passionate about. So for me, and again, that's maybe an advice for entrepreneurs out there or people that want to change career out there. For me, it's important to know yourself, right? So even though I felt, that okay, maybe it was the time now that I could do something else, and I was thinking about, could I do something else? What would I do? What would it look like? For me, it has to be passion based. So even when I got into social work, I did it, because I was passionate about it. I did it because I had a mission, there's something that I wanted to do that was bigger than myself, right? So this is where I found the value, and that's where I found the strength to overcome, the very difficult and emotionally challenging times that I went through, because I could always fall back on the sense that, I'm doing this for a reason, and what I'm doing has got value, and I'm bringing something to
And
society.
I totally get the passion bit. Um, but it does strike me. I mean, moving from being a social worker, and I can get why. I mean, that's a tough job. I can get why you might think I've had enough of this, and maybe I want to do something else. But that's also a really interesting switch to building a technology-based business. I mean, it's a interesting switch from being a social worker to building a tech business, and more importantly, a woman building a tech business. I mean, there are a few around now, but there's not that many. I mean, so it's you kind of you kind of pioneering a little bit. I mean, what made you make that particular jump? Because there's lots of other things you could have done.
Absolutely. So that's just to explain the hook about how did I find that, I had to follow a passion. So, I was passionate about plenty of other things, obviously. But really, to put it simple, the catalyst was, meeting my business partner, simply. So, I so what we met in a social context, so it wasn't that we obviously wouldn't have crossed paths otherwise, because he's the tech person. So he was the CTO. He's been in tech. He's been building data centers. Very, very capable, very incredible person, guy. And so anyway, we met in a social context, and he was telling me about, what he's doing for a living, what he's doing, and the projects that he's been working on, right? And then as I do, because I like to get involved in stuff that is a good opportunity and interests me, right? So I started to get involved a little bit with the project that he had at the time, and he had a few. And this particular project was about working on this idea of putting sensors onto a carbon accounting software. And it was just, a pet project really at that time. And he was involved with, some professors from universities and some other people that were doing that project. And then I was looking at that and I was thinking, actually, that's a good project. He's kind of got legs, but, it's a shame, like he wasn't really gaining momentum because there was no leadership or there was nothing really to get it going. And I could see that, he wasn't going to go much places unless, somebody was gonna take it places and dedicate time and energy to it. So it was a good idea. It had legs and it was an important thing to be doing, but, it wasn't really. And so we talked about it, and he said to me, and so I was thinking that, right? And he was looking at me and he was looking at my job and like how I was managing, because when I left, I was managing, about two services and roughly, I think about 80 people. So I was really busy, right? I was in a leadership position then. And he was looking at my diary. Sometimes I had like three different, meetings at the same time, like triple booked, and and he said that to me later. He said to me, I don't know how you were doing, but I saw you and you were whizzing around and you were managing this and managing that and firefighting. And I thought, my God, this is the woman that I need to run my company, right? So even though he's a very, intelligent, very clever tech, and he's invented and he's inventing fantastic stuff, the management side was not necessarily his forte, because he's more like the creative type. He's gonna go and have his ideas and he's gonna but I'm more the structured one that is gonna put systems and structures in place and is gonna, get it going or get it off the ground, sort of thing. So he was looking at me and I was looking at him, right? So we then had a discussion at some point, and I was telling him that, oh, I'd like to do something else, and he just came up with it. He said, look, why don't you, I said to him, why don't we make this a business? And he said to me, why don't you run that business? Right? So that's kind of how it started. And I said to him, but I don't know nothing about tech. How am I gonna, I can't just run a tech company. Like, I know nothing about tech. I'm gonna be lost. How do you want me to do this? And he gave me that confidence. And I said to him, but I've never run a business. I know nothing about business. I know nothing about sales. I know nothing about tech. And that's all three things that you think I'm just gonna jump and do. Like, you're crazy. And he said, yes, yeah, you can do it. I've seen you. I've seen you do this. I've seen you do that. I believe in you. I know you can do it. And then, I said, well, look, I believe in you. I think that you can invent this damn thing, even if it sounds crazy and is very ambitious, as you said, Paul. I said, I believe in you that you can bloody create it and make it work.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I believe in you that you can get it off the ground.
Okay, so you two teamed up.
Yeah.
You picked a big ambition. You're
Yeah.
not a tech founder, but it's a tech company. I mean, how
Yeah.
are you going to make it happen? I love the size of the ambition, but as you've just pointed out, I mean, being a social worker is very different from running a business. It's very difficult from dealing with clients, selling products and services. I mean, how are you going to make it happen? I mean, just give us your thoughts on how are you going to make this happen?
Well, it's a bit more than a sword pull because we are now getting clients. We're commercializing this
Yeah.
thing, and I've got a pipeline going, right? So even though it's still, early stages, if you would say on the revenue side from a, revenue perspective, we've built it. So we've built it, we've tested it. So it's been going now for coming to 4 years. At the end of this year is going to be 4 years where we've built a product. And obviously, I was an integral part of that, of the project design. Tested it on five, big environments. So I'm talking about offshore wind farm, on a very big turbine in the northeast of England. It's now running in the port of Tyne on a big crane over there. We've done commercial building, large commercial buildings in London, a former hospital. So we've basically taken it from ideation to testing the product. We know it works. We've built it, so we're now finishing the. So it's not a proof of concept anymore. It's not an initial sorry, how do you call that? Um,
It's,
uh,
it's, it's not a
minimum
pilot.
viable product.
It's
Sorry,
a, yeah,
it's not more minimum viable product.
it's
We've
a
we've
proper product.
taken it. Yeah, it's a proper product now. We've taken it to version one, and we are getting contracts coming through. So we've partnered. We've got big partnerships. One of them is a partnership with Insight, who again, have believed in us and believe in our products, and we are now in discussion with the first client to see how we're going to integrate that on a pilot project that's in a commercial in a commercial building in England. And if that project's successful, we're going to have a rollout of the product. So that's a big win, right?
Yeah,
Especially
yeah,
that we're
absolutely.
still a very small
Let me
team.
ask you about something. I mean, you've already talked about your kind of passion and the things that are important to you. I mean, let me ask you, and you also talked about how you were intimately involved in the design of the product.
Mm.
I mean, how have your values influenced the way the business has been built, been put together? I mean, just explore that connection for a second, because that seems to me to be quite important to you.
Well, it's important for me and for the business. I really believe that
Mm.
business is only as good as its values, right? Especially when you build a team, that's so important to be consistent with your values. So thankfully, my values and the values of my co-founder matched, right? So that was the first thing. So we both wanted to build something that is going to sort out this issue that will help company decarbonize so that we can reduce the carbon emissions on the planet. This is, and every time you hear us speak, or even my co-founder, when he speaks or when he talks to partners, he always makes sure that this is that's understood very clearly. This is what we want to achieve. This is our aim. That's our goal. So that's really important. So when going back to product design, I kicked the tires, and the fact that I wasn't a tech background, I think actually helped because I took a beginner's point of view, right? So for me, it was really nonsense about, okay, guys, we can do this and we can out of all these features and it's all fantastic. Because techies, what they do, they go run and they want to do all these things and flashy
Yeah.
things and oh, it's fantastic. But then at the end, I was like, how is that going to help us save the planet? How is that going to actually help us reduce? So I've been really quite challenging on the impact side
Right.
in and making sure that we only keep what's valuable to the client but also what's valuable to the mission, right? Which is, are we actually going to achieve that goal, reduce the emissions? If it's not achieving that goal, then get rid of it because it's not going to help. So the value, if you want, is a bit of a beacon. Your values, your missions are aligned so that you get a beacon for what you want as a outcome. Because how do you know what you want to build when it's not built?
Yeah.
You know, you know what the problem is, but you know roughly what you should do to try and solve it. Hopefully, you've got an idea, but you don't know what it looks like because it's not been built yet. So you have to invent it. You have to create it, right? And if you create something that doesn't follow something that is of a value or a mission that is based on that value, you're gonna get lost. You're gonna be sidetracked. You're gonna go all over the place.
Yeah. Which is very easy to do. Let me ask you about, I mean, how you feel about being the CEO, because you've transitioned from being a social worker. Okay, you were a leader and you managed people, but that is still slightly different from being a CEO, isn't it?
It's
I mean,
very different.
yeah, exactly. How do you feel about being the CEO? I mean, do you like it? Do you feel you're good at it? Do you feel you've grown into the role? I mean, because it's a journey, really, isn't it?
So that's many questions, right? Do I like it? No, yet. I'm still walking on on fire. They are walking through fire right now. You know what it was Elon Musk that said the CEO is looking at the abyss chewing glass most days. So yeah, it's not comfortable, right? I don't particularly like it quite yet. Yeah, but but it's a necessary evil, right? So am I good at it? I think I am. I think I'm good at it. Whether I like it, not yet. When I do achieve my mission, when I do have lots of people that follow me and that create that mission with me, then yes, I'll love it probably. I was still going to be chewing glass, I'm sure, but it's gonna feel a bit more enjoyable. And what was the other question? It's not an easy transition, no, and I'm scared. It's scary, because the leadership position that I had before was in a well-oiled system, right? It was a government system, a local authority, it had laws, it has structures, there was a team. So you have a sense of security based on, you know what you're doing because there's a structure, you know where you fit. It's very totally different to one, create something that nobody's created before in an environment where, you don't know if people are going to like what you're doing, creating, whether they're even going to need it. And on top of that, you have to run a company, which means you have to balance the books, right? So
Yeah.
that's not the part that I enjoy very much, balancing the books.
You said a second ago that it scared you, it frightened you. I mean, what is it that frightens you exactly?
Well, the uncertainty is frightening, right? So you have to be able to sit in that state of uncomfortable uncertainty, uncertain certainty kind of thing.
Somebody said to me that you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Is that fair?
Pretty much, yeah. It's not easy, right? It's not easy because if you get comfortable and you would know that, that's when you die, right? That's when your company dies because that means you're not pushing yourself. That means you're not kicking the tires. That means you're not reaching for more. So therefore, as a CEO, and it's that's true for everybody, if you want to achieve something, you have to take some risks. You have to get out of your comfort zone, right? But as a CEO, if you want to take your company forward, you have to constantly be at the helm. That means you have to constantly be in the uncomfortable position at the front, pushing and then
Yeah.
taking people behind you.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people that haven't well, people that haven't done it don't understand how difficult that is, I think. Let me ask you something very specific. I mean, one of the things that's interesting about entrepreneurs is that they tend to be doing something that is challenging the status quo. They
Hmm.
want to do things in a slightly different way. I mean, how do you feel about that thing about challenging the status quo, saying we need to do this differently? I mean, does that excite you or does that terrify you? I mean, what are your thoughts on
No,
that?
I'm a pretty good challenger. I'm comfortable challenging, so that's good. So,
Right.
I don't have problems with that. Right. That's not an issue, but the difficult part is more around and you will hear that from entrepreneurs, when you get the rejections, right? So the challenge bit is not, I don't mind standing on, and I don't mind if people don't like me, or I don't mind if they don't agree with me. I don't mind if they think what I'm doing is crazy. I really don't give a who. As long as I know that what I'm doing is valuable, I know it for real, I know what I'm doing is going to make a difference, then that's fine by me, right? But and I don't even know. In fact, I like the challenge because I think it's good, right? So I embrace it. I like it. I like good debates. I like, people challenging me because it helps me think. It helps me be uncomfortable, push myself, right? So that's no issue. But the issue is when you're up against it. You are the only one that believes in it, and then you have to convince everybody else that no, look, I'm right. It's gonna work, and this is what we need. That's when it gets quite challenging and quite scary because then you start doubting, right? And you will know that from entrepreneurs, they have to battle. You hear that they have to
I
battle
mean,
their doubts.
yeah. I mean, one of the things that people say to me is it's like riding a roller coaster, the good days, bad days, everything in between. I mean, is that how
Mm.
you feel about it? And if it is, what is it that gets you out of bed in the morning to ride that roller coaster? Because it's not easy.
It's quite funny because you know what? I went on a ride 2 days ago with the kids, right? And
Okay.
my sister was there. She's a bit younger, and we all love roller coasters. So
Right.
we all the time going to the fair and we love it, and. And then I was going on there, and my sister was on the front, and she was going, "Wow, was there." And I was thinking, I'm too old for that. My God, what am I doing? So, it's so it's like I don't have a problem with roller coasters, but I'm getting tired now, thinking, "Oh gosh, I'm getting old for that." Why didn't I stay in my, little comfy job? Why am I doing this for now? But yeah, no, yeah, you have to believe in something bigger than yourself, right? To get up in the morning.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's absolutely right, I think. I mean, you've made a very good point there. And it's tiring, isn't it? And exhausting. That's the
It's
other thing that
exhausting.
yeah. Let me ask you about something that you mentioned. I mean, one of the things that the CEO role is important. It's one of the critical roles in most businesses. And one of the challenges is that you could do 101 things.
Hmm.
You could do this, you could do that, you could do the other. How do you sort of cut through all the noise to focus down on the things that you need to do to move the business forward? I mean, that always seems to me to be a challenge. I mean, I find myself getting very easily distracted. How do you deal with that?
I'm trying to explain it, but it it's something that kind of comes a bit naturally to me, and I don't
Right.
mean it in a cocky way, but I seem to have the ability to sort of take a step back and have a wider view. So I don't get bogged down in the details. So you could say, there's maybe it's my type of personality whereby I'm not too much of a perfectionist. So I do pay attention to detail when it's always important, you would argue, but I have this ability to move from going into the detail if I have to, but at the same time, keeping an overview at all times of all the different moving parts, and therefore having sort of an overview and being able to so it's like in my mind, I'm constantly knowing all of the moving parts, and then I know strategically if I move this bit there, or if I do this at this time, this and this is gonna. So I'm sort of strategizing from a really high level perspective a lot of the time. And from that, I sort of a bit instinctively know that, okay, the next move, we're going to have to hone down on that, or we're going to have to move the technology. So I'll give you an example. So for now, we've got these contracts lined up that we've been working on for some time. They are now coming to fruition whereby we are going to deliver the projects. And so therefore we knew that a month ago we had to uplift, part of the front end of the product to make sure that when we deliver these projects, the customer is going to be really happy with what we deliver because we've done that work in preparation. So it's kind of, I have the overview of where we want to go, but at the same time of all the moving parts. I'm
Yeah.
not making much sense, am
No,
I?
no, I think I think you've made the point very well, actually. I mean, the cliche is that you've got to work on the business, not just in the business, isn't it? I mean, that seems to me to be what you're describing. I mean, you
Mm.
need to know what's going on in the business, but you also need to stand back and be clear about, well, we need to do these things to move forward. I mean, that, and I think you've described that really well, actually. But it is a very difficult thing to do. I mean, lots of entrepreneurs struggle with that.
Because maybe that's where you get, so that maybe the fact again that I'm not a tech person or I'm not even a business, from a business perspective has helped because I can again have this detachment. So I'm just, imagining, but if I was in a tech space, I might be tempted to just do what I am comfortable with. So to rephrase that, because I'm not comfortable with anything, because I don't know business, I don't know tech, everything is new to me, other than leadership. I know leadership, but I don't know anything else. I'm thinking maybe that was an advantage because that way I'm not falling back on a position where I can go back to something that I'm comfortable with, which is either the tech role. So, for example, with my co-founder who's got the CTO role, I often have to pull him out because he's automatically he just falls back on the tech stuff. And then when we're doing commercial proposals, for example, I have to keep reminding me, I said, look, Brent, you're falling back on tech now. I want a commercial proposal. Like, talk to me about commercial, talk to me about because his natural comfortable state is talking about the tech or doing the tech, right?
I mean, it's an interesting point you make about because you're uncomfortable with everything. That actually gives you an advantage. I mean, it's an interesting perspective, isn't it? That you're weak.
I wouldn't advise it. Don't try this at home, right?
No,
But
I don't think it's
it's
much
just
fun, but I can see why it works. Yeah. Let me ask you about one of the other interesting. So when I started in business a long, long time ago, we didn't have social media. I mean, we didn't have computers actually, but that has completely changed. I mean, and one of the interesting things about building a business today is that we're people are building those businesses in the age of social media when there is massive amounts of scrutiny. I mean, any one of your people could go and could say anything. Your clients can say anything. There's this huge sort of world of scrutiny. Which is totally different from somebody going to the pub and moaning about something. I mean, if they start doing it online, I mean, it could, it's a different world in which to build a business. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Has that created challenges for you? I mean, how do you feel about that situation?
no, it hasn't created that. Look, I embrace technology, so I like technology. I like social media. I think it's fantastic. Because it's giving you a platform whereby people can connect with you from all over the world that I would have never had the opportunity to meet before, right? So no, we haven't had any negative reviews, thankfully. Well, we pride ourselves in having, really good partnerships and we work on a partnership base. So the way that we've grown has been through partnerships. We've had our only employee to date for over 3 years. In fact, I did put a post on that as well. The negative side of social media is somebody contacted him and basically offered to him some money to rebuild our product and basically, um, ask him to build a replica of Carbon Link.
Really?
So
I mean,
yeah.
that's awful, isn't it? That people would do.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
presumably
is.
he or she didn't, presumably.
Well, thankfully, he's been very loyal, and again, I thank him for that. And
Yeah.
come back to us and say, "Oh,
But it's an
that
interesting
this
example.
person."
It's a very interesting example of something that wouldn't have happened when I started in business. I mean, that
Yeah,
never.
exactly. Because you could, but now with social media, you can find, who's working in a
Yeah,
company, who's got that role, and then approach them directly.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So in a way, it's not business as usual. So you have to develop new ways of, even with ChatGPT, right? I was talking about that the other day. Let me just finish my train of thought, and I'll come into that. So you have to operate in a differently, but again, it's like everything, you have to see the opportunities. So even though, yes, there's a potential that, people could try and ruin your reputation, or they could try and poach your products by going straight to your employees, that's the negative part. But there's also, and you work through that through relationships. So paradoxically, that's quite an interesting point, right? The social media is not personal per definition, right? You don't really know the people. Even, the employee I was talking to you about, I've never met him,
yeah,
right? We've worked together 3 years. I've never met him in person. So there's that disconnect. But at the same time, the answer to these challenges is the relationship.
yeah.
So because of the quality of the relationship that we have with our developer, this is what prevented, the problem, the deceit or whatever to occur through the social media. And equally with people, trying to be negative about your business. So if you have the good relationship, and it's not always possible, right? I'm not saying that people that get bad reviews because they've not managed the relationship properly. That's not what I'm saying. There are some people that are going to always complain and be disgruntled. There's just nothing you can do about that. But the answer to that new world is the quality of the relationships, paradoxically, even though you don't meet the people, or you don't know who they are, or you just met them through social media.
I mean, it's a very interesting point, that, isn't it? And it also, I mean, I'm about to ask you about AI in a second. I mean,
Mm,
in an age when people think that AI is going to be able to do pretty much everything in a few years' time, I mean, your point illustrates the importance of human relationships, doesn't it, in helping businesses make progress.
absolutely. It's all about the relationship. I mean, business is about relation. And this is where, you were asking me, how did you find your feet? Well, I know relationships, right?
Mm,
And I discovered that, oh, guess what? Business is about relationship. Happy days. That's what I know.
yeah.
So, you have to kind of, you know, dot the dots when you can. And, you were talking about confidence, where did I get my confidence? Well, once you start doing it, it's like a toddler. They don't know if they can walk before they put one foot in front of the other, right?
Yeah.
So before you try it, you're not going to know if you're going to be able to do it. But then once you start doing it, you realize that, oh, hold on a minute, but I know that. I
But that
might not know
also,
business,
I mean, you're absolutely right, but it also recognizes that you have to be willing to try it, which means
of
you
course.
may not be able to do it and you may fall on your bum. That's,
Absolutely. And this is a point
yeah,
about CEOs. So what makes a good CEO, right? What makes a good CEO? Well, a good CEO is brave.
yeah,
Is brave. Yeah. You
yeah.
have to have courage. It takes courage to do this. It takes courage to take a company. It takes courage to stand up to people that don't believe. It takes courage to stand up even when you stop believing yourself and still get up in the morning
Yeah.
and still think, you know what, tomorrow there's going to be a better day or the day after. But regardless of how I feel today, I'm still going to carry on because you have to find that courage.
And where does the courage come from for you? I mean, where do you get the courage from?
Look, you have to be a bit of a courageous person to start with, right? So but I take it from, so the mission we talked about, I take it from my mission. I get the courage to do it because I know what I'm doing is right and this is what I want to do and I believe in it. So that's personal. But I take the courage from the people around me, from my family, from my kids. When I look at them and they're happy, or I look at them and we talk and they say, oh, Mom, when you were in the other job, it was difficult, you were so stressed and da da da, And I take the courage because I'm thinking I've got to do this for them. I've started this now. I
Yeah.
want a
You want to
better
leave the planet
life.
in a better place, don't you?
Hmm?
You want to leave the planet in a better place. Because if you
I
don't,
want to live, exactly. I want to make an impact. I want to leave this earth knowing that I have made an impact with what I was given. I want to, do this for my family, right? I want to give them a better life. Like, I'm not going to come here and pretend that, oh, I'm just doing all of this for altruistic reasons and nothing for myself. Of course not. Of
yeah,
course, I'm building a business so that I can have a better life. I can have more freedom. I can spend my Friday morning being in Abu Dhabi and talking to you, Paul, instead of because I choose to, because I get up and I said, you know what, today, that's what I want to do.
yeah,
That's great. That's quality of life.
yeah. Now, one of the things we've talked about previously is the way AI is changing how a lot of these things work or are going to work, particularly stuff that involves large amounts of data. I mean, what are your thoughts on navigating the kind of the world of AI? Because it seems to me to be constantly evolving, and it
Mhm.
seems to me to be evolving really quickly, and seems to be getting faster. I mean, what's your thoughts on navigating that?
That's where you see, I love technology, right? So I'm going to give you the same episode. I love it. The faster, the better. It's brilliant.
Right. Okay.
It's brilliant for us. It's fantastic for creative people. They don't have the resources. It's amazing, right? It's changing the game. Was it not for AI, we would have not been where we are because, we are still looking for investment. And, I'm not going to go into that, but pretty much we've gone so far with very limited resources and basically in-house resources and AI, right? Without AI, we would have, and this is maybe why it took us so long because AI wasn't fast enough, because AI wasn't around 3 years ago, but it is around now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So for me, again, that knows nothing, that doesn't know how to put, uh, a good proposal, not a proposal, but that has been struggling to do my value proposition for the good past 3 years, and I've been on countless, podcasts and countless training. And now know what it should look like, but I'm still trying to put it together. AI did it for me in 30 seconds. And you know what? It was perfect.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, hallelujah. Where have you been 3 years ago?
Yeah. And it allows small companies like yours to compete with much bigger players, doesn't it?
Exactly. Because now you won't see the difference
Yeah.
between me, who doesn't know how to put this together, and somebody who's done it. I'm joking. Look, I do believe that AI is fantastic, but you still need to know what you're doing, right? AI is not going to do everything by itself. You need to give it, but it's a fantastic resource, right? So yeah, I
And
think it's going to change the world. It's fantastic.
yeah, no, and what you're saying is lean into it, isn't it? I mean, and I think that's good advice, because it's not
But
not going anywhere.
it's not going anywhere, but you have to be brave. Going back, right? If you're somebody that sits there and is wondering, am I going to lose my job because AI is going to be doing what I'm doing? And then you're thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I'm so scared of AI. You have to be brave, right? Because it's fantastic for people that are entrepreneurs, that have creative ideas, that want to build something, that are going to use this as a tool. Is not going to be so good for people that are scared of it, that are going to try and resist it, that are going to try and, it's going to require a lot of people to think about what do I do every day? Where can I bring the value? What is it that I do that is so specific to what I can do and nobody else can do? It's almost like everybody is going to have to become an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
looking at their value
Well,
proposition,
there are
looking
some
at what
people.
they bring.
I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, there are some people that are saying that the most important thing to teach young people is to have to be an entrepreneur because that's going to be the future. It's a
Absolutely.
very interesting point. Let me ask you about the sort of journey that you've been on. I mean, knowing what you know now,
Mm.
what advice would you give to yourself if you were starting again?
I'd rather not give advice because I wouldn't have started, probably. knowing that it would take me that long. I'm not a very most patient person, but knowing that it would take me that long to get there, I probably would have started. So it's probably best that you don't know. But no, that the advice is probably, and actually that's good advice because that's advice I've been giving to other entrepreneurs that I've just started is know that it's going to take you twice the time that you think it's going to
Yeah,
take you and then add another 50, 100% on top of that
yeah,
and be
yeah,
prepared, for that.
yeah. I mean, I know lots of entrepreneurs, and pretty much all of them would say they can never get it done fast enough. It's always slower than you think, and I think there's a lot of truth there. A lot of truth. Audrey, thank you for taking the time to come and have a chat. I mean, it's absolutely
Thanks, Paul.
fascinating. Really, really interesting journey. Great. I mean, good luck. I mean, you've got a big ambition. I think you're going to be working on that one for a while. But I love to see a bit of ambition. And so good luck with trying to fix the problem going forward because it's a really important thing to do.
Thank you, Paul, and thanks for inviting me. And yeah, follow our journey, and let's see where we end up.
Yeah, look forward to it. All right, see ya.
Take care. Bye.
Bye bye.